the second episode of our podcast. So today we're going to talk about what really is growth hacking and how we have used it ourselves within our careers and our lives, and how it's really helped us. But growth hacking is pretty much defined as the process of blending marketing, product, data strategies alongside experimentation to pinpoint the most effective ways to drive business growth in whatever venture that you're part of. So I'm going to let Joe talk about how he uses growth hacking for getting real estate leads, just real estate in general, and all the different measures that he's taken. Let him go first, and then I'll kind of get into all the stuff that I've done myself in my career.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the biggest thing with real estate is it seems like everyone and their mother has their license. So in order to grow and to grow your business, you either A, have to know every single person in town, or B, have a ton of money, which neither one of them I had when I first started off. So the biggest thing I did, and I really didn't even realize it was growth hacking at first, was just looking at other people who were successful, not only in my market, but in the markets I wanted to be in and in the niches I wanted to be in, and what were they doing. And then I started trying to just kind of emulate what they're doing. I know the biggest one, obviously, is Ryan Serhan on $1 Million Listing. So I just kind of looked at what he was doing with social media and TV and just realized that it really wasn't about real estate for him. It's more about marketing at the end of the day. So then I started learning more about marketing, seeing what some of these other companies are doing. It might not be in real estate, but it's going to portray and it's going to translate over to real estate. So I started really getting into TikTok when it first came out. Not as much during the pandemic, but then once the pandemic was over and just seeing how much you could grow on it and kind of just seeing the different videos and the different content you could put out there. I mean, it's essentially YouTube, but just a lot shorter form. So you have, maybe 7 to 15 seconds to catch someone's attention.
When did you start doing the TikTok?
I started this past December.
Yeah, and what are you at right now?
I just hit 19,000 followers.
That's wild. Just talk about also too, what are you doing on TikTok? By the way, this is my dog right here. She wanted to be part of the podcast this time. But yeah, just talk about what you're doing on TikTok as well, because I'm curious myself. We're trying to create one for our current NFT project. So
definitely, yeah. So I think the biggest thing with TikTok, when I first started off, I was just trying to do any and everything, just trying to catch people's attention. Now I'm starting to do a lot more of different areas and different cities within Florida. I do the entire state of Florida for real estate, so I do different areas or cities about moving there, top 3 to 5 things you could do, top 3 to 5 things you might not like about those areas, medium price points, house tours, local restaurants, obviously not the chain things, but if it's a touristy kind of thing and it's cool, I'll definitely mention it. I mean, parasailing is obviously a very touristy thing, but that's cool. It's something to go do. If you live here and you haven't done it, just be, because it's touristy, you still gotta go do it. But just trying to engage with people and just show them how much fun it is to live in Florida, and then replying to every single comment. I mean, it doesn't matter if they just curse me out, I'll reply to them oh damn, what'd you not like about the video? Just to engage with them. I mean, it's always good feedback at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, honestly, for myself, so my first real job was right out of college. It was for a real estate tech startup called LoftSmart. And right away, we're basically reinventing a wheel that's been around for, years. There's 3 things that everyone needs in life. One is housing, which is obviously that's one of the biggest markets that's out there in general, real estate. Right. And then you can probably guess the other 2. And they involve love and sex, and the other one involves eating and food and surviving. But regardless, though, one of the biggest industries out there is real estate, and finding your place to live, it sometimes turns into a problem. It's kind of hard, especially. So our niche was student housing, and when I first started at LoftSmart, I was a basic rep, and I worked my way up the ladder because I really grind and I hustle. And what helped me initially was literally growth hacking. This dog right here actually helped me a lot on Florida State's campus. I used to walk around with her as a little puppy, and I just walk up to random people. And then, by the way, have you found out where you're going to live next year? Just doing these guerrilla marketing tactics, as we used to call them, are ways that you're going to get your initial leads that, 1, cost free, but 2, it's going to help you convey your message that you're trying to emulate to anyone that could potentially use the product that you're offering. And LoftSmart, it was my first real experience of learning how to put these techniques that I had started, honestly, like when I was in college. I didn't really focus on like a career that I wanted to have until like the latter half of my experience at Florida State. And that's when I really like kind of dove into, entrepreneurship, startups in general. And I took a class like my last semester ever, and it really pushed me into this kind of like R&D type space of research and development, and really like opened up my eyes to the opportunities that you can have with startups. And that's where kind of like I learned growth hacking in general. And then I put that to play once I started working at LoftSmart and doing my own guerrilla marketing tactics. I had no money either. I was broke as fuck. I was basically right out of college. And I was trying to grind, and that's what I did. I actually made enough money to save up, and I bought my first house at 22. Like I did that from the sales grinding and just the hustling and the guerrilla tactic marketing on the grounds, which I learned through all these different growth hacking measures. And they start off with like finding a goal and then creating like new ideas based off of those goals that you're trying to establish, and then finding those cost-effective strategies. And it's all about having that growth mentality and creating things that are also scalable. So one of the things that we used to do was we used to have tabling events. And this sounds so basic, but we got such a bulk of our sales and our revenue from just having these in-person interactions. So it was in Tallahassee. So there's 3 campuses. There's FAMU, TCC, and then also Florida State, obviously the biggest one.
Which one's the best?
They're all great colleges, honestly. But regardless, though, like Florida State, it has this larger student body, so it's just a bigger market to tackle. And some of the growth hacking measures that we took was we partnered with sororities, we partnered with fraternities. They're called like SOBs, student organization partnerships, we called them. We created this whole different marketing plan that was all based around saving money, And we did put costs into a lot of these different things. We partnered with bars and restaurants in the area. We used to have discounts where you purchase a certain item at like for example like a sub place that was across the street from Potbelly's. You could potentially get a discount on your lease when you sign your lease through us. And then we created like really cool events, like fun events. We had a few events that were tailored towards different like Valentine's Day type events. And one of the things that we did was it was obviously like that kind of theme of finding your housing while also finding a potential match at Potts. And it was just cool events that we had that we partnered with Potbellies for. But finding those different niches and really looking back at the data after you see like, okay, I put this amount of time and this amount of effort and this amount of money into these different marketing networks that I established, which ones are giving back. And it's all about like sitting and looking at the results. Like if you go back to that lean startup methodology, build, measure, learn, and the learning sector, it really is, it's so pivotal in everything that you're doing. And I'm sure when you started off, Joe, like in selling your first house, like that was a learning experience for you, because it's like, okay, what led me to actually get this result and get this like check in my hand.
Right.
And it was the same thing with LoftSmart. It was my first experience, and then I took all of those different learning experiences and those skills from the different growth hacking methods that we did, and that's when I was able to emulate them at Dive. There's a ton of things that I could talk about. Some growth hacking measures at Dive, because this was like right during the pandemic it started, and we were really just building. There was no really measuring and learning at that point. But then when we were able to have our first MVP launch, MVP stands for minimum viable product, that's when we really learned from the data, like what's working, what's not working, and what is free, how are we doing this, because it is hard to get college students to download an app, especially a dating app. Everyone's like, wow, another dating app? Like that was the biggest thing that we used to get. It's like, wait, this one's a little different, like hear me out, but
I feel like that's sales in general. Like there's always you're never going to be the only one in a space.
Oh, 100%. And there's going to be like 50 other companies with the same idea that you have, but it's just like how you're tackling it. And it's just, I mean, sometimes people say it's the fastest to the market wins, but that's not always true. Like timing is everything though also. Like some markets just aren't, they're not like ripe for your product yet, you know? Like they're not ready for it. A lot of times like markets just literally aren't ready. And there's been so many like giant, massive companies that just executed so well, but I mean, there was no markets that were out there that was created for it.
You could have the best product ever, but if it, like you said, it's not ready.
Yeah, it's called the ghost town effect. That's kind of like initially what happened with Dive in the beginning, because and we the product wasn't the best though either. It was a very minimal, you know, like it's called MVP, minimal viable product. It was minimal standards, you know. It wasn't.
You're just trying to get it out there and then just work it from there.
We just want to get it in the hands of people. But I want to talk about real quick about what we did for growth hacking for Dive. And so we did something very similar that Airbnb did, like we spoke about in the first episode with Craigslist. We actually found out a way for us to you know, get users for free, and that was through creating exact duplicates of Eventbrite events in Tallahassee, and this worked for like 7 weeks. We had thousands of people.
It's just amazing they let you do it for 7 weeks.
Well, they didn't catch on. I think someone had to report us or something, but they didn't catch on at first. And we were just duplicating all these events on Eventbrite. Clearly was going against, like, you know, their standards that they have on there. And then I'm pretty sure someone must have reported us, because I mean we were like, you know, high sailing. You know, it was open seas for us, and we thought like we hacked the whole market. Like this is great. It's all free, not costing us anything. We created duplicate events that were all free, but it was so obvious. It said explicitly all over the place that, you know, this is not a ticket to get in. We were so explicit everywhere. And then we had an issue, so we were also retargeting them with the SEO. So search engine optimization, anyone that doesn't know, SEO is. But basically what we were doing was we were like ranking super crazy high. So anytime someone searched, so some of them, they would see our event first. They won't even see the Eventbrite that's on there. So they'll see the duplicate version of the event that's actually happening. And we'll get people that were like single registering, and they would still check in. Also, too, just a brief background of what Dive is. Dive is like the easiest. Like the way that we pitch it is, it's the easiest and safest way to meet someone in person as opposed to online. And you know, we just focus on partnering with bars, restaurants, venues. And you can literally check in when you get there. You have to check in actually when you get there, and you can see other users that are also single that are on the app, and you can wink at them. They wink back. You go say hi. That's kind of like how the app works.
Takes away some of that anxiety of having to go up.
Yeah, it takes away social anxiety of going up and getting rejected. And if you do get rejected too, like, you know, you just don't approach that person, obviously.
Right.
But I think it's a bigger like safety issue. Like you should have heard some of the things that we when we interviewed and that did like our own R&D on different reasons why people stopped using dating apps for whatever reason it is. Safety was one of the biggest issues, and like we heard stories about like men getting robbed at gunpoint from girls that set them up. But I mean, they could have not even been girls. They could have just been, you know, guys imitating girls. Yeah, catfishing them and then setting them up to rob them. It's wild. I heard that story 3 different times from 3 separate people, and I mean, they're all in Tallahassee too. Like, but regardless though, like the growth hacking measure that we took for the Eventbrite, it was great until it didn't work anymore. And it was actually a Diplo event. There was a big issue. There's a Diplo event There's a Diplo event in Tallahassee, and we were really ranking second on the SEO for it. And what happened was the event eventually sold out, and all these college kids were like, "Oh wow, a free Diplo ticket! Like let me register for LoftSmart." And it was just so obvious. Next thing you know, I get a phone call from the director of Potbellies, like, you know, pissed as hell at me, and I'm just like trying to explain to him, look, man, like this is just us trying to get our foot in the door. Like we're not trying to, like, you know, say this is a free ticket at all. It's so explicit all over the place. And he's like, well, they're college kids, you know. And I'm like, I know, but still, like, you know, like they should learn how to read. Like they're in college, you know. Like that was kind of like my response, but still, like we took it down. And then eventually Eventbrite caught on, and I can no longer facilitate Eventbrite through my Dive Live dating emails. But regardless, though, it's just finding that like in between like obviously trying to do something
It's a
illegal
gray
because
area.
it's a gray area exactly. But there's just so many ways that you can growth hack, and it's not just that either. Like I've used LinkedIn for growth hacking. That's a great place to growth hack. It's a great place to pinpoint like your exact customer that you're trying to reach out to. We're doing the same thing right now for Division 42. We're targeting personal trainers in South Florida because, I mean, that's really our target niche market right now is getting those people to use our products and like advocate our brand as something that's like here to help people, not just physically but also mentally. And I mean, for us, like fitness, I know for myself especially too, fitness has always been my outlet to like just feel better really. At the end of the day, like fitness is like our goal here, like our motto, that our mantra that we're trying to emulate is sweat is my therapy. And it's true though, it really is. For a lot of people, they use fitness to like forget about like whatever's going on in their life that they're trying to like leave at the door when they go into a weight room but
Just
regardless,
like a healthier coping mechanism. I mean, look at last night. Like we won our flag football game last night. Like our entire team's like mood has been 1,000% different. Complete 180. Everyone's just like, you can tell the energy's back, the confidence is back. Like just everyone's day is just better after you win. Well, winning obviously, but after you're just sweating and be out there. I mean, everyone feels good even after we lose, but you can just tell everyone's kind of deflated. But after you're doing something competitive, everyone's just like, all right, let's get the next game. What's the next Tuesday?
You're also like working towards a common goal, and group therapy is actually proven to be the number one fitness, like mental health related therapy that you can use to actually improve your mental health, like through physical activity. And you could see that from just our game last night in general. I think.
I mean, you could just see some of those people who just come kind of like just stressed out from work or just overwhelmed, and then like as they start playing and they like start smiling a little bit, even if they're yelling and cursing at each other, it's competitive, and they just like, you can just tell they feel way better than when they got there.
Yeah, and also like win or lose, like obviously we did great last night, we won, but I mean, you walk away like after like, dude, also too, like your adrenaline is like through the roof through those games. I was up so late last night, I feel like, just because I just felt great for one thing from winning, but like your adrenaline's just going too, like your endorphins are up, everything's up, like you just feel like so much better about doing those type of activities, I feel like. And that's why I like going to the gym. It wakes me up too in the morning especially.
100%. That's why I think in that in the Miracle Morning they talk about getting like just 20 to 30 minutes exercise, just breaking a sweat in the morning, like just to start your day.
Yeah, it's like even going for a little jog, like just to start your day. And then I like to lift at lunchtime because there's less people there for one thing, and it's just like a break to the day.
Yeah.
But I mean, just doing like a morning run is such a great thing for your routine, honestly. But let's get back to growth hacking. Yeah, what do you want to talk about? Different steps that you take for real estate?
Yeah, I would say, so let's talk about, we'll go back to the real estate and go back to the TikTok. I think the biggest thing that I've found is it's a continuous process. Like I'll have some videos that start taking off and doing well, and I'll start to copy that format, and then all of a sudden they start getting like, they go from like a couple 100,000 views to like 2,000, 1,000, 1,200. So I'm like, all right, now I got to switch it up. So it's just constantly learning and looking at what are other people doing. Even if it's not in real estate, like what kind of videos are they making? Like I don't see a whole lot of like people dancing and stuff on my TikTok. A lot of it's like lifting, food, maybe different inspirational things and motivation. Occasionally some real estate stuff, but I try to keep it as Florida related as possible. So just trying to find different avenues and aspects to talk about, and just really get people to engage at the end of the day. You want people to know about you more than anything. I mean, it's kind of a growth hacking in a sense. It's kind of a mix of branding and marketing all in one, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the three biggest like categories in growth hacking, one is obviously the marketing. Two is the technology that you're facilitating, whether that be like your product or whatever you're using to actually like obtain those users, whether it be like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, or even simply like YouTube too as well, obviously, or even podcasts as well. But and then the third category and the final category is the actual data that you're getting to do those experiments.
Right.
And just let her out real quick. But
But it goes back to that kind of feedback loop, like build. Would you say build, learn?
Build, measure, learn. So
Build,
that's like
measure,
the
learn.
whole lean startup methodology. I'm big into books, so I'm going to be suggesting a ton of books on this podcast that I read. And if you're trying to get into to like, you know, the whole route of starting your own company, the first book that I suggest you read is The Lean Startup. It's going to really like form a great base for you to start actually growing and learning and being able to, you know, build, measure, learn your own companies that you create. And again, like the first step is just, you know, putting yourself out there and thinking of different ideas, like,
and accepting failure. Like failure is a part of the process. Like not everything's necessary. It's only a failure if you give up. You got to constantly keep going at it. I mean, like think about maxing out on a weight. Like if you're let's say your goal is to bench 315. If you continuously just keep going and pushing to get that 315, like you're eventually going to get it. Your body's going to build from that stress, and you're going to adapt and overcome it.
Yeah, you can just eat enough food that you're going to get there as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Obviously a healthy balance, but regardless, you're going to get there no matter what happens. Same thing with business and ventures and starting your own opportunities that you have. Like all it takes is just, you know, action, putting those ideas onto paper and figure out like your first step to take. And like for me, it was reading, like just absorbing as much knowledge, information, and learning as much as you possibly can. And I didn't really get all this information from schooling whatsoever. I'll tell you right now, like the books and the learning and everything that came after I had a degree from Florida State. Like I'm not even kidding at all. Like the past 2, 3, 4 years, I would say, I've just dove into books and listening on Audible specifically. I mean, I do read a lot of books as well. Like I read The Lean Startup first, like the actual physical copy of it. But I mean, I've listened to a ton of books as well. And there's so many out there that are going to give you like the resources to create like this marketing like war chest of just tools that you can just go into and access. Okay, well, I remember this company that was demonstrated in, you know, 0 to 1 or the Lean Startup or Super Founders, whatever it may be. Those are like 3 of my favorites, by the way, that you can go and you can actually take out and look, okay, well, that's where they fell short. I'm not going to do that. Like you can, everything that you're doing, like you can just go back to and like find examples of ways for you to not do it that way, because obviously you're trying to succeed. And again, like Joe said, like you could fail multiple times. You could, I mean, it's going to suck. Like you could definitely not achieve like your goals and everything. And one of the books that I'm a big fan of as well, it's called The Right It. It talks about like, you know, getting the right amount of research and creating like a lot of experimentation tests before you build something, because you got to make sure that you're building the right it before you build it right. Like that's the whole motto of the book, and it's absolutely true. Like you might be like spending like years of your life on creating this product that nobody fucking wants. And I mean, if that's the case, like
that goes back to what you said in the beginning. You got to have a market for it.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Like it's like launching a dating app for in-person meeting during the pandemic.
You just be banging your head against the wall all day.
But no, I mean, I totally agree. Like it's just finding like stuff like this and like reading these books and gaining knowledge. And too, like one thing that like I was eventually humbled myself to doing is joining an accelerator. I went through a whole accelerator program. Before that, like our startup was actually it was stationed in this place called Domi Station, LoftSmart, and we had an office in there. I used to see a bunch of companies that would go in there because I was the growth manager, so I was constantly busy working on my own startup, but it wasn't my startup. I was working for somebody else. I did have equity, I did have shares, but it wasn't like my baby. And I saw all these other entrepreneurs that were doing their own things, that were going through these accelerator programs. And I mean, I thought to myself, like, well, I'm kind of past where they're at because, you know, I was part of a seed round, was part of a Series A round, like, I'm doing all this cool stuff, but no, it wasn't mine at all, by any means. And when I created Dive, I mean, I eventually humbled down myself, like, look, like, I need help. Like, you're going to want to find those mentors in your life that are willing to reach out and, like, give you a lending hand, like, and like genuinely want to see you succeed. Like find those people and like latch onto them and because you're gonna find somebody else and you're gonna be a mentor to them. You're gonna create a lot of mentees in your lifetime as well. And if you keep going down like these different routes, like you're gonna eventually succeed on one of them. And accelerators are just a great way. And there's so many out there. Like, I mean, some of the big ones that like lots of people apply to. One of the biggest ones is actually Y Combinator, and I would say the second biggest one of that is Techstars. But again, these are just giant names. There's so many accelerators out there, and there's a lot of them that are like niche accelerators. On top of that, like I'm seeing a lot of Web3 accelerators jump into space, and one just popped up in Miami actually. And like this transition that's happening right now from Web 2 to Web 3, I've been part of it for the past like 6 months, and it's just amazing to see how small the community is right now, but it is growing every day at a rapid pace, and it's going to be, I think, the future of what society is kind of moving into. I don't see like everyone on like wearing headsets like those like Ready Player One, for example, but I could see it getting to an extent where you're kind of like confusing reality for this.
Yeah, it's gonna be extremely mixed reality, especially with the way like a lot of corporate jobs are right now, where they're going into like a hybrid-esque work style. I mean, there's only so many projects you can work on Zoom where you're looking at something, but like where you can actually see it and like almost essentially touch it and be interacting with it at the same time. That's where this is gonna really start to take off.
Yeah, no, it's really cool to see too. Like we're like witnessing it. Like like I was young when like the .com bubble happened, and all these like 90s companies were coming out, this and that. But I mean, we're literally witnessing right now. We're part of revolutionizing this new ecosystem that is what is creating like Web3. And I mean, some people are talking about Web 5 now, which is like a blend between the metaverse and reality. It's just really cool. But regardless, though, like I would say, if you want to start your own thing, just put all your resources into learning and absorbing as much information as you possibly can, and you're going to put yourself in a position where you know exactly what to do to succeed.
100%. What would you say to the top 3 things that you've learned from all the things that you've done in growth hacking and the accelerator program and all the different projects you've been a part of, that if you had to go start another startup, that you would take with you?
Honestly, I would say like be as humble as you possibly can in everything that you're doing. Like take advice, like take criticism. Like don't look down on like what people are saying. Like they're trying to critique you for a reason. They want you to succeed in the long run.
They're not all haters.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. And then also too, like just be careful. Like there's people out there that are gonna try to take advantage of you. There's scammers. There's people that are frauds. Like I went through an incident that wasted so much of my time, but like I eventually knew like, okay, this person's trying to scam us. But we were actually part of a conference. It was for a tech conference, and it was during the pandemic. But I'm trying to think of the name of the conference. It was this big one that was out of Toronto, but it was online for the last year. And someone got a hold of the attendee list, and he was faking to be a VC that was overseas, that was trying to like represent like foreign investors. And it took me down this like rabbit hole, and it was just a waste of my time. But eventually it got to the point where it's like, okay, well, we're going to fill your entire convertible note. And a convertible note is a way for you to get funding as a startup, and basically the note converts when you raise like your first serious round of funding, and they usually get like the investors usually get like a discount of like 20%, or it's negotiable, but it's usually around 15, 20 to 25% discount rate that the investors that are investing in your seed round would get. And this foreign investor from China wanted to fill the whole note, and this group that was located in UK, they had like their own place of business, everything. Basically, they said they needed convertible note insurance, and I had to pay that. And I knew right away, like, okay, my lawyer didn't even know what that was. I didn't know what it was either. Never heard of it for my life. And I could tell they were trying to scam. And like when you figure out that someone's scamming you, that's when they start. All I'm saying is like just completely be careful, be cautious of everything you do, because something like that, like
You still gotta be optimistic, but just be cautious.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
people, something like that, like it could completely wreck a startup. You know, like if I were to send him like the $19,000 that they were trying to get me to wire, it would. I mean, we would have completely like probably not been able to do any more work because like it would have wiped out our funds that we had for allocated for like building the MVP and certain things like that. But I would say that's the second, and then the third is like just get ready to work. Like everything you do like matters. Like just turn, like you got to realize like you got to hustle, you got to grind, you got to get up early, you got to change your habits, you got to like really commit. I'm not saying like like destroy like your weekend, but you gotta have to have a balance. But all I'm gonna say is just get ready to really like get after it, and because that's when the real success comes.
Yeah, you just never know when it's gonna hit at the same time. So like the minute you feel like giving up, you could literally be like this far away.
Yeah, 100%. Like again, too, like we said a million times, we're gonna keep saying it over and over again, probably every single episode. You cannot fail unless you quit. It's absolutely true. It's anything, sports as well. Like I'm sure you could suck at football, but if you keep like pushing yourself to the limit and keep going after it, I'm sure you'll find another Rudy in yourself.
Eventually, it's gonna pop.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it for this one.
Yep.
Just any leave in the comments below like any other suggestions for ideas that we can talk about. But
yeah, or any questions that you guys have you want us to answer, put them in the comments. You can message us on Instagram. You can email us. Whatever you feel comfortable with, let us know.